What's up, summoners? King Blair here. Today we're going to be over in Arena, talking about the two teams that you need, as well as going through some examples and my own teams, so you get a better idea for what you can use to climb through the different ranks, as well as get an idea of why you even need two different teams. Now, if you kept up with the channel, you probably know that Arena is not my favorite place on the planet. I have always hated it, but more recently I started to like it a little bit, and I started to even just enjoy it and actually be using all my flags. And why is that? Is because I finally got around to building two different teams to be able to climb. So what we're going to be talking about today is what two teams those are and what teams you should consider building for both these scenarios. Then we'll actually go into examples, and then I'll showcase my team and show the builds of the units that I use in both those teams at the end of the video. And as always, it'll be split up into different sections for you to skip around and go to the section that you want to listen about. If you just want to watch the fights, you can skip to the fights. But without further ado, let's get right into it. If you like the video, make sure you like, subscribe, and join the Discord server. Link down in the description. Without further ado, let's get right into it. So, what are the two teams and why do you typically want two teams? Well, the big thing to climb in Arena is you typically want to be able to clear the list, because not only do you go on a win streak and get more points, but you're also going to be getting some nice little extra flags to get more of those nice little conquest points for you to buy more things. So ideally, you want to be able to clear the list. On the other hand, you don't want to be spending 1 hour every day just to do 5 flags every like 10 minutes, because that can get really annoying. And that was the reason why I really hated Arena, which is why the two teams that you need to build is one, a cleave team where you can cleave most of the defenses very quickly and be able to just get rid of them and go next, or an aggro, right? Cleave or aggro, something that's going to be quick and snappy, and I'll show both of those types. And the second team is going to be a nice, safe Bruiser team. For the teams that you're not comfortable cleaving, you can take a nice, consistent Bruiser team to them and almost guarantee yourselves a win for the most part, right? There's always things that can go wrong, but it's something that is your trusty Bruiser team, right? Those are going to be the two teams, and we'll kind of break down some of the heroes with the one for mine as well. So first, let's go over to this first team, which again is very common around this part. This team is very scary to Bruiser right now, and it's just not something that's going to happen too easily. And now you may be wondering, King Blair, I don't have the greatest speed here. How the heck am I supposed to outspeed this para? What if I get outsped, right? Well, that's where speed imprints come into play if you're going to be cleaving, right? So we'll talk about cleave first and then aggro. So watch speed imprints, right? There are units that can give you faster speed on your units. For me, that is going to be Watcher Shuri, right? That gives me 10 speed. I know that that's a very comfortable speed for me to actually work with, and it's going to give the rest of my team that nice little speed boost. But now let's say, but King Blair, my gear is extra trash, right? How am I supposed to cleave this team? I'm just going to lose. I'm just going to quit. I hate Arena. Well, that is going to be where you actually get your second speed imprint, which is most likely going to be Sid. And both, especially Sid, is a really good option to get that speed imprint, because now you have Watcher Shuri and Sid. This para is getting a nice 20 speed boost, and it's going to be much harder for you to actually get outsped, and you can just send it and you're most likely going to be winning that fight. Is it 100%? No. Is it way better than trying to Bruiser this team and molding because you got outsped and are nailed by para? Absolutely. So even though you do take that consistency loss, which is why I have that 90% win rate instead of being like higher 95, 100, is because I like to cleave a lot. I like to get my flags in. I like to go quick and fast. But I'd rather do that than have a 100% win rate by taking like 20 million years, right? And maybe not even having 100% win rate at that point, because Bruiser teams can still lose, right? So that's what I like about speed imprint cleaving, and it's really, really good option for you. And there's a lot of them. This team right here, really, really solid. Para, Ran, Silolius are the main ones you would normally use for this, because they have the fastest base speed. You can potentially use Flan if you have a really well-built Flan. It depends on your speed level. That most likely will be a video talking about the different speed tiers that characters have. But again, this I am pretty much guaranteed to get turn 1. I am decently comfortable with my para speed, which is why I only use one speed imprint and I haven't built my Sid. So that's usually why I use the Hua on my personal cleave team. Now, if you don't have Ida, there's other units that you can still use, things like Cdom, although it's a little bit riskier for things like Cdom, just because, again, you can't go straight into your Para's S3, which is usually what I do like to do against these teams in particular, because I know my Ida can actually clean up shop. But Ida, again, if you have Ida, incredible unit for actually doing this. If you don't have her, you can use things like Cdom. You can use other units, right? And you can actually get that cleave in, right? But now let's say, okay, King Blair, even with the 20 speed imprints, my fastest unit is still a measly 290, right? I'm not most likely in that speed. Well, then you have the aggro option, where you can actually take the Paras S2, because if you notice something about this team, and a lot of Arena teams, they don't follow up right after the Para. most teams don't, right? The large majority of the teams don't. So you're actually able to cut in with a different type of unit. What's one of the units that a lot of people like to use in this scenario? One of them is actually going to be none other than Sinful Angelica, but it has to be on Doctor's back if you're using Sinful Angelica against Para. Why? Because Sinful Angelica is able to cleanse one debuff naturally, and a second debuff if you have Doctor's bag on her. Easily able to clear those Para debuffs. You get that attack buff, you get that speed buff, and you can cleave with 250 speed units or slower, right? If you have a fast Sinful Angelica, like 260, 270, and you have like 230 units, you can outspeed this team and easily come in and clean up shop for Sinful Angelica. On the other hand, you also have Dilibet, right? And you can play a more safe, aggressive team with Dilibet, right? With Dilibet being able to actually cleanse all the debuffs and CR push your team up by 15%, get rid of those debuffs, CR push up, and then you set up really nicely for the rest of your team and just kind of end these three units that they're honestly really, really squishy at that point, right? So that part, again, something to keep in mind, right? There are a lot of ways for you to actually deal with team without actually having to outspeed the Para. But it's important that you have these aggro teams as well as the cleave teams. So that's going to be the first team. And if you wanted to see some other examples, this is my defense team, which gets clapped all the time. I know, it's because I'll get to legend and then I'll just immediately drop down because my defense sucks. And I try to go pretty heavy on the anti-cleave, but people are really good at actually try to do some cool cleave teams, right? So for example, you see the Operator Secret Cleaves, you see the slower teams, right, with the AOL, that we're going to talk in a second with those safe Bruiser teams. You see again the cleave team with Ran. He doesn't have to use a speed imprint. You see the SSB autos that we'll talk about in a second. You see the slower teams, but you also see the more aggro teams with things like Sinful Angelica and AOL to be able to cut in. You see the Amelia teams. And again, you see a lot of people bruising me because it's not safe. But again, you also do see the people that have the Sinful Angelica and are trying to cleave, are trying to aggro it, right? So for the most part, people have an aggro / cleave trap. Now comes the second one that you guys saw a lot of in that example, which is going to be none other than the Bruiser aspect. So let's take a look at a defense that I would not cleave. This defense, I absolutely will not cleave. I don't feel safe cleaving this team, right? And for you, maybe a different team. But I have a Bruiser team that I know is going to be really, really good. And this is the Bruiser team that I almost always use against these teams. Why do I like using this? Well, the Craw is there for the really nice insurance to S3 and be able to get rid of something. The Rimuru is there to do a bunch of damage onto the Rem. The Hua is there because she's bulky. She's going to survive. She can cleanse herself from Polides and potentially kill the Rem. Once I kill Rem, I pretty much know I won the game, right? If I kill Rem, I win. I have 3 units that are aiding me towards a goal. And these are the only situations where I really don't like is because of the Polides, right? And I personally can't cleave through Polides. So I just use this team and it wins most of the time. Can something go wrong? Absolutely. It does more than I would like to admit, because you can still potentially get stunned by the Polides. If your Craw doesn't have enough ER, you could get dual attacked over and over again. It could be a billion damage Rimuru. Those do exist. They are pretty scary, right? So there's things that could go wrong. But again, it's pretty fast even for a Bruiser team, right? And even when you saw the other people fighting me, there are other Bruiser teams that are not Craw reliant, right? There's people that are using Seaside Bellona, right? And Seaside Bellona is another really trusty Guild Wars team. Or if you have Lermia, which is going to be Light Sermia, really good into this team because you can force the trigger on the Polides with your cleanser. And then you're able to actually come in with Lermia with a big S3 doing huge damage. And you can put things like Rowana, SSB, Lermia, and just slow cleave the team, right? Slow Bruiser. So that's going to be the two themes that you're going to want. First, a cleave team to quickly go through the teams you can cleave. So for me, I would most likely cleave this bottom team, I would cleave this second team, and I would cleave this fourth team. And that leaves me 2 other teams that I can Bruiser, and I already have a team that I'm most likely going to like to use, and I just bring it in, I just get the dub, and I move on, right? And then I'll be able to clear my list and go to the next one, right? So that's typically why 2 teams are usually pretty good and you can alternate between them. And right now the meta actually allows you for having 2 teams, but it's very important that you have some form of aggro because I can guarantee you it sucks sitting there and bruisering all 5 of these teams. So much can go wrong. You're going to be so frustrated, wasting time when you could be trying to cleave with imprints or aggro with things like Sinful Angelica or even DJ Bazaar, right? In a lot of these situations. Because Para with Celolias are the big ones, right? And they usually don't have that follow-up required, right? You see all these teams that have Para Celolias, they don't actually have the follow-up right afterwards to cleave. So you can slowly Bruiser, right? Eat their S2s, S3, cleanse, push up, and then get rid of them, right? And if you're not trying to aggro them, if you're like for things like Polides, have a reliable team that can actually get past them and easily be able to deal with them, right? But now that's going to bring me to my teams. I'll actually showcase them for you, and then I'll actually show the builds. So I'll talk to the one that I actually showed you guys, which was believe it was this bottom one. And it was this one. This one's super easy to cleave. This one's like any day I'll cleave, right? So I'll show you 2 cleave ones and 1 Bruiser one. And you guys will see how fast it is. So we start at 10 minutes. So we will see where we end. And again, I know Para is higher base speed. I have that speed imprint. If this person outspeeds me, I just got gear gapped, right? And I just have to eat it, right? And that's fine. At least I know I lost in 10 seconds rather than have to wait 6 minutes to find out I lost, right? So we'll see. Did I outspeed? Did I not? Boom, we outsped. GG. It's over. Easy peasy. We pair S3. The reason why I'm not S2ing is because I don't want to take the Rem's damage for no reason. I do the S2 to push back the Celilias. I also didn't want to restrict the Celilias. Give myself more chances to be able to deal with this team. And now we actually go in for the S3. Ida can die at this point. She did her job. She stripped. She pushed back. Right here, she could potentially stun, and then I just win. Ida's a really good unit for these type of cleaves. So yeah, look at that. That's beautiful. And I'm going to play it safe. I know I could go a little bit faster if I'd done the S2, but I don't have his S2 fully molad. No clue why we didn't crit. Oh, wait, we have 99% crit. I forgot that. And we're going to get rid of her, the Dilibet, just because I don't want him cleansing. And at this point, it's like GG, right? Like, look how, like, that's team. A Bruiser team would most likely just kind of die there, right? It would be much scarier for a Bruiser team to try to beat this type of teams, right? It's just not as safe. But with this Cleave team, I pretty much knew I was going to outspeed. And look at that. That took 1 minute and 20 seconds versus taking like 4 or 5 minutes if I'm actually bruising, right? And I can show you guys this other one, and it'll probably be a loss when I actually do this one, just because if I get outsped, I lose, right? But let's get into this team. Again, you're going to see me not use Perez S2, again, because they're relatively squishy. I'm trusting my Ida will be the one that is going to be stripping the Rem, and even if she doesn't strip, I can potentially survive those 2 hits, right? Most likely. The only time it doesn't is if Rem S1s me, decrease defenses me. Yeah, we barely outsped, right? Almost got gear gapped. But we S3, you know, that speed imprint doing work. Ideally, I would have Sid over Hua in this situation, so I would be more safe because Para can speed RNG you even with a speed imprint. So that double speed imprint team that I showed you would ideally be better. You do see the Rem go here, you know, let her pop off. Another reason why I like Pereira Cleave so much is because even though she counterattacked and Rimuru counterattack, we live because of that nice little Pereira Aureus. Really, really scary up to that point. But here, hopefully we stun. If we don't stun, we do lose the attack buff, but we should still win the game because we're going to cut the rest of the team. We do get that, and we won, right? Was it risky? A little bit. There was a very small chance I could have lost. But again, I'd rather take that 10% loss potentially, and it's much lower than that for certain teams. Like you start learning which teams you can actually cleave, which you can't. The longest win streak I think I went on this week was 35, and then I lost like 3 in a row because I was messing around too much. I didn't take my booster teams when I should have. But yeah, there it is. This one took 1:20, right? Super quick, super fast. We're chilling. And now for the Bruiser ones, you can kind of see this one. It's going to be a little bit slower. But again, I don't like cleaving these type of teams. But I have my team set. I can just quick click over here in the team. I know I should probably put them on tags. I click go, and we're just going to have to wait for his Celius to take 2 million years. But we start at 13 minutes 20. This fight should take around 2 to 3 minutes tops. So hopefully it shouldn't take too long, right? Because we've done this several times. And I'll find out, again, there's a chance I do lose, right? There's always a chance that you will lose the fight. And you're going to see me start going on this Rem because, again, the threat in this matchup is the Rem. When Rem dies, I win the game, right? I can pretty much auto after that point. So we do that, and then we come with our Rimuru, who is going to be a damage Rimuru. Even though we have the attack break, it should do enough damage to finish off this Rem. And then you get the pop. Oh, since he counterattack, we get the double counterattack. This is so weird. This is like a double. Oh man, you play the animation, and yep, that's the pop. And then our Craw will get to get rid of his Polides, right? And then it's easy peasy. Right, and we have a decent Craw. I know he can live these, and then we come in, and we auto. We're done. At this point, I know I'm gonna win. Celilias and Rimuru don't really do much. I can just relax, sit back, enjoy the show. Enjoy the animations. Since she's defense broken, we'll actually go for her. I forgot Rimuru decrease defenses as well. And we go here. 1, 2, 3. And our Ravi will finish it off here. So how long did that take? That didn't even take 2 minutes. Wow. Yeah, see? It's a nice little Bruiser team. But I pick it in the places where I know I can't cleave and where I can just kind of get a quick W. But that is going to be it as far as it goes. I will show my builds now. so you can see the units that I have and the speeds that I have to give you a better idea of what you're looking at. Remember, this is Champion 1. It's going to vary if you're climbing Challenger, if you're climbing lower. You do have to take that into consideration. People will have better or worse gear. So first, for the Cleave team, we have my Peyra, which this is probably my most used team. Peyra, I actually gave her my best speed gear, 305, pretty fast, which is why I'm comfortable with her. If you kind of need it at least 300, and if you're not comfortable at 300 where you are, do the double speed imprint. Don't use swap, use Sid. There's the gear. I will quickly tap over it. You can kind of just stop the video. I can get more speed out of her, but you know, I haven't had those pieces. The Watch Shuri that I'm using is right here. He's 236. He's missing 1 speed here. Not a maxed out Sasha Thanes. Again, not optimized, not super busted. Gets the job done quite easily. Kind of comes in, just one tap something. And of course, you do want that skill nullifier extra equip in case you are going against up an Aravi. If you don't kill the Aravi, you'll have that skill nullifier and you'll be able to survive, right? It's pretty nice in tanking a lot of situations. The Ida, which is going to be the bread and butter of the personal team I use. On book, so you're able to soul burn. Fast speed, so you're actually able to cut. High damage, so you're actually able to kill. And again, really quickly going over some of the gear. It's not the highest gear quality in the planet, right? So it's not like super optimized, but it gets the job done really well. So that's the Ida, and then the last but not least is the Hua. And again, you can even use things like Samurai Seria. But there we have my Hua. I have kind of a weird one. I went with a little bit more bulk, and I don't have a max Barriers Tooth. It kind of does suck, and I still have to max this out and get that little bit of extra defense and that extra health, unfortunately. But that's going to be the Hua. So that's it for that team. I usually use that team almost exclusively. You can use a Sid. I don't have a Sid built. As far as the Craw, this is a Craw that I use. Full, pretty much free set. Craw, except for those 2 pieces that I actually farmed for. You can kind of see the gear. Nothing super insane. Pretty standard Craw. Does need it. I ideally would want higher FRS because sometimes Palladius does stun me, and that's usually how I do lose my fights. On the other hand, we have the Rimuru, full damage Rimuru, low HP, lowish HP to be able to tank certain Hua teams. So Hua will go onto him, and he'll be able to survive with Proof of Valor and Aureus. And so that's his main role, is to try to be there. The other one is going to be my Aravi, which is a full damage Aravi, pen set, fast, Crimson Seed, trying to just kill something with S3 if possible, right? And then sometimes I will switch in things like DJ Bazaar if it's a heavy debuff team. Sometimes I'll switch C Lilius if it's like against AOL and there's no Hua, right? So it just varies. I'll change like 1 or 2 units out. Sometimes I'll change for Ammo Haste, but that is going to be it as far as the units and the teams. Hopefully this gives you a good idea on those arena teams and lets you do all of that. But that is all I got for you guys today, and I will see you next time. Peace.